Om Agyantimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajiva Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Deva Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Te Namini Namaste Saraswate Devi Gaurvani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschat Deshatharini Mukam Karoti Vachalam Bhaktum Langayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Guru Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalai Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaya Namo Namaha Namaha Pankajanabhaya Namaha Pankajamarini Namaha Pankajanetraya Namaste Pankajangi Krishna Varnam Tusha Krishnam Sambhapangastra Parshadam Yagyai Sankirtana Prari Jantihi Sumedasam Manchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyaiva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, dear worshipable devotees, thank you so much for joining. His Grace Rania Prabhu has also joined. Please accept my humble obeisance. Please, Prabhuji, if we misspeak, please correct us, guide us. Thank you so much for your blessings and association. So we will start with chapter 6 today, right? So we have discussed the first 5 chapters of Bhagavad Gita. So let's take a short quiz. What's the first chapter? Anyone remembers? What's in the first chapter? Like in a one line.
In one word, Prabhuji, Arjun Vishad Yoga.
Arjun Vishad Yoga, basically the background, right? The dilemma of Arjuna and his confused state. So very nice. So what's in the second chapter? What's in few words?
Summary of whole Bhagavad Gita.
Yes, very nice, Prabhu. Summary of entire Bhagavad Gita. Krishna starts to speak, Arjuna takes shelter. And the title itself, the acronym itself is also Gita. We discussed that. So what's in the third chapter?
So Karma Yoga, Prabhuji.
Karma Yoga. Very nice, Prabhu. It's about Karma Yoga and primarily how it is interdependence of the demigods, the humans, and then connecting it to Krishna. So very nice. What's in the fourth chapter?
Gnu Yoga.
Jnana Yoga. Very nice. Yoga of knowledge. We discussed that. What's in the fifth chapter?
Karma Yoga, action and Krishna consciousness.
Yes, this is more about Karma Yoga or Nishkam Karma Yoga and the advanced stages of Karma Yoga.
Karma Sannyasa.
Yeah, Karma Sannyas Yoga. So very nice. So we discussed all that, and we also discussed that Krishna was setting the background for the last 2 verses of chapter 5 about this chapter, which is the Ashtanga Yoga or Dhyana Yoga. Chapter 6 is entitled. And the first 6 chapters are kind of, if you divide Bhagavad Gita in 3 parts, the first 6 chapters, the last 6, and the middle 6. So the first 6 and the last 6 are also important, no doubt they are important, but the essence is in the middle from chapter 7 to 12, and that is the Bhakti Yoga. So we will study that maybe in a few weeks from chapter 7, but today's focus will be on chapter 6, which is the Dhyana Yoga or the Ashtanga Yoga. And also Lord Krishna and Srila Prabhupada are emphasizing, even Arjuna is emphasizing at multiple points the impracticality and the how tough it is. It's primarily about mind control. And Krishna, Arjuna says in 6.34, later we will see all those verses, but just giving an overview at this point, that Arjuna says, I can control the wind, but I cannot control the mind. So we will see some stories today about Avanti Brahman. If I forget that, you remind me, we'll discuss that story. What was his conclusion about mind control? And we'll discuss some lessons as well, and how in the practical world also, this topic is so relevant. These days, a lot of people talk about being mindful, right? Being mindful. So what does it really mean to be mindful? And how can we be really mindful? When the mind is full of all the trash, then how can we be mindful? So let's start with this wonderful chapter, chapter 6 of Bhagavad Gita. And since I have only one screen today, so I won't be able to see you all at the same time see the screen. So that means I won't be able to see you all. I just see a few participants. So that means that if you have to read, you can raise your hand until your turn comes, and so that it will, those participants who are eager and interested to read will pop up in the front, and then I can call out for your name, and then you can get chance to read the Bhagavad Gita verses like how we have been doing. Okay, so let's begin with this wonderful verse of chapter 6, text 1. So would someone like to initiate? Yes, Ravi Prabhu, please.
Hare Krishna devotees. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Anashrita karma phalam karyam karma karoti yah sa sannyasi cha yogi cha na niragni chakriyah. Translation by Sri Prabhupada. Prabhupada ki jai. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, one who is unattached to the fruits of his work and who works as he is obligated is in the renounced order of life, and he is the true mystic, not he who lights no fire and performs no duty.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhu. So as we were talking about this chapter, Lord Krishna will talk about the Ashtanga Yoga. Ashta means 8, the eightfold yoga system, which is given by in the modern time, the Patanjali yoga system. Yam, Niyam, Asan, Pranayam, Dhyan, Dhyarana, and Samadhi. Basically the do's and don'ts of this process. And then ultimately it culminates to Samadhi, which is a bona fide system. But it is not, Prabhupada is writing, acting in Krishna consciousness is better, right? And then who is real sannyasi? So again, the Nishkam Karma Yoga is emphasized here in the first 2 verses, that sannyasi does not mean to stop lighting fire, right? Nir Agni. Agni means fire. Nira Akriya. Akriya means, Kriya means again duty. Akriya means one who is not doing duty. So just by not cooking in the fire, or just by not acting, one will not become a sannyasi. Rather, engaging those propensities in the service of the Supreme Lord, one becomes sannyasi by spirit, which everyone should be. Everyone should have the heart or the consciousness of a sannyasi, because sannyasi is not by dress or not by one, okay, Many people may not cook. Like especially in US, they don't like cooking, right? They may not light fire sometimes in weeks. So all of them are sannyasi, right? So they may eat outside all the sinful things in the restaurants. The point is that does not make one sannyasi, or just by wearing the dress of a sannyasi, one does not become one sannyasi. Again and again, this point is emphasized that renunciation is not of the action, it is in the action. The spirit of renunciation in the action is real renunciation. And some great souls, they may take the dress also. And then even now, even in ISKCON, so many sannyasis are there, and they love to cook and offer to the deities, offer to the devotees. So many examples are there. And they're also doing a lot of duties and activities. They are not just sitting in a forest and just, they are actively preaching, traveling, and so doing so many things which a normal person would not do. Why? Because the focus is to please Krishna. So this is action in Krishna consciousness. This is real, the message of Bhagavad Gita. So sannyasi sometimes artificially think that they are become liberated. Why? Because of not, refraining from this material duties and things like that. But that is not real sannyas. Again and again, that point is emphasized here. The real sannyas, Lord Chaitanya is telling that to be free from desires. This point we'll discuss again and again. To only aspire for bhakti, mama janmani janmanishwari bhavatad bhakti ahetuki. Ahetuki bhakti, without any hetu. Hetu means motive or intention. Someone's intention is to do some piety, is to get some fame. Someone's intention could be to get some son, daughter, mother, or some recognition, job, husband. There could be a lot of hidden agendas, but real bhakti is ahetuki. And that is what Krishna is again telling in chapter 6, 1 and 2 words, before he starts to speak about the other topics of the mind and the dhyana or the Ashtanga yoga. So let's read the number 2 verse, text 2. Anyone wants to read? Yeah. If you could raise your hand, it would help me to know who is eager to read, because I can't see all the people in the meeting.
I can read, Prabhuji.
Please.
Horizontal devotees, Dhamma Pranam, all praise to Srila Prabhupada. Jang Sannasa Miti Prahu Jogong Tang Vidhi Pandava Nahi Asannasta Sankalpo Yogi Bhavati Kaschana. What is called renunciation, you should know to be the same as yoga, or linking oneself with the Supreme, O son of Pandu. For one can never become a yogi unless he renounces the desire for sense gratification. Back to Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. The same point again is shared here again, that real sannyasa means to understand who we are and to engage in the service of the Lord. Not by, going artificially to Haridwar, giving up family, as Sri Vaishnava says. One can give up one wife, but one could be accompanied by 6 wives in the forest. And that is lust, anger, greed, envy, pride, illusion. The desires, one could be so much filled with the desires for sense gratification. And artificially wearing a dress is practically futile, and it will just cause turmoil to the society as well, which many people, cause turmoil. Artificially taking, we may have heard many examples in the so-called religious systems without understanding the spirit of renunciation. So what is the real renunciation is same as yoga. The linking, yoga basically means to connect or to link ourselves with the Supreme Lord. So bhakti yoga is actually real sannyas, as Prabhupada is mentioning. To just always think of Krishna and never forget Krishna. So this is a real yogi, this is a real sannyasi. And that person, Prabhupada says multiple times, if a person is purely involved and absorbed in the process of bhakti yoga, then he is as good as sannyasi. then one does not need to leave one's home, family, etc. Because it's Vaikuntha right there. It's Goloka, as Bhaktivinoda Thakur says. But we have to make it. It's not that easy also to transition from Mahabharata to Vrindavan, to Kurukshetra to Vrindavan. If Krishna is not there, sometimes people are scared. Oh, I won't read Bhagavad Gita because if I keep Bhagavad Gita in my home will become like a Mahabharata, like a war zone, fight between husband, wife, children, etc. So one devotee asked, like, is it right now Vrindavan? Like, no fighting. So the point is, by reading Bhagavad Gita, by understanding, by practicing the principles of Bhagavad Gita, one will actually be able to have that Goloka atmosphere. So we'll continue reading the next verse. Yes, Prabhu, Sudhir Prabhu, you want to read the third verse?
Sure, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna, devotees, Dandatpana. Text number 3. Aruksor Muner Yogam Karma Karanamuchyate Yoga Ruddhasya Tasyaiva Sama Karanam Uchyate. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. For one who is a neophyte in the Eightfold Yoga system, work is said to be the means. And for one who is already elevated in yoga, cessation of all material activities is said to be the means. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. So here there are two stages of yoga mentioned here. Yoga Aruksha, that means the beginning, and Yoga Arudha, that means one is fixed up, or one who has advanced. So basically, who's neophyte in the Eightfold Yoga system or Ashtanga Yoga, and one who is attaining the different levels. So let's see what Prabhupada says. So this bhakti process, or all these, the yoga process is like a ladder. The yoga ladder we have discussed at multiple places, and I want to kind of share a few examples also. So the lowest in the position is completely like animalistic life. No conception of God, no conceptions of rules and regulations. And then one, by the causeless mercy of devotees or some prasadam, something, some books, one may come to a little advanced stage and start this process, or even through karma kanda, right? Even karma kanda is better than animalistic life. Even in karma kanda, there is some conception of some higher power. And we have discussed that multiple times, that how from the animalistic life, from karma kanda, then slowly karma, the sakama karma yoga, then nishkam karma yoga, then jnana, dhyana, and then ultimately bhakti. So Prabhupada is mentioning the jnana, dhyana, and bhakti are primarily the three parts of this yoga ladder. So imagine the rungs of the yoga ladder. And even they're subdivided, like the dhyana yoga, which is Ashtanga yoga, is subdivided into 8 parts: yam, niyam, asan, pranayam, dhyan, dharana, samadhi, etc. So let's look at this nice picture here. So we have discussed this karma kanda, right? Then sakam karma yoga, nishkam karma yoga, jnana yoga, ashtanga or dhyana yoga, and then bhakti yoga. So these are the different rungs of the yoga ladder. So animal life, karma kanda. Animal life means unrestricted sense enjoyment. In karma kanda, there is some restriction. Okay, you have to eat meat, you have to offer to Kali, chant some mantras in her ear, in the goat or the whatever animal you are killing, and then offer to Kali. This is mentioned in some of the Vedas, but it is not there to encourage meat eating or to other wrong practices, but to discourage or regulate sense gratification. Then Sakam Karma Yoga. Sakam Karma Yoga is basically I will worship, I will connect with the Lord, but with material desires. Like I will do my job, but I'll give only 1% to the Lord, rest 99% I will enjoy. But gradually, Nishkama Karma Yoga, only for the interest of Supreme Lord. only for the interest of the Supreme Lord. So very nice here. So in the Jnana Yogis, where do they reach? They are Jnanis primarily worshipping the Brahman by their Jnana and the Brahman, the effulgence of the Lord. Ashtanga Yogis or the mystic yogis, they are focusing more on the sun disk analogy of the Paramatma, meditating on the Paramatma. But what is, one time His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj gave a class on these yoga camps, yoga groups from the West. So Patanjali also says after the 8th stage of actually the yoga system, the 8th stage is Samadhi. Samadhi means complete absorption. And what is that complete absorption? Patanjali actually was a Vaishnava, which not many people talk about that aspect of it. So many just people talk about what aspect of Patanjali's yoga? Primarily asana and pranayama. Asana and pranayama is basic, very, very elementary. Why? To keep the body healthy. But is that the purpose of Patanjali's Ashtanga Yoga? No. Samadhi, Siddhi, Ishvara, Pranidhana. The perfection of Samadhi is complete absorption on the Supreme Lord Ishvara. But that no one talks about, that no one discusses. And just the yoga nowadays, there is like deer yoga and goat yoga and cat yoga and wet yoga and hot yoga and this yoga and that yoga. This has become just a business. Why? To enjoy the senses. So one senior Vaishnava was recently giving a class, and I like this point. Just think about, we are in a very deep, dark well. We are caught up in a deep, dark well. And what is happening? The yoga is like a ladder. The yoga system in the Bhagavad Gita is like a ladder, or to get out of the well of material world. Now, what some people may do, it's cold also. Okay, it's cold in that well. Some people may take that or pieces of that rungs of yoga ladder and break it and start to burn it, and feel the warmth of that wood. So they are using that ladder, but just to be more comfortable in that well. Very nice example, actually. The ladder is supposed to get us out of that well, not to make the well more comfortable, right? So using just tiny bit yoga here, just make yourself comfortable, have a better body, to enjoy senses better, enjoy this world better, is like using the steps of that yoga ladder, which is meant to take us out. But what's happening? We're kind of burning that ladder. We are losing the chance to get out of, because the life will pass away, right? Life will pass away, time is short. So rather than trying to burn those pieces, the rungs of the yoga ladder, burn that wood to be more comfortable, we should understand this world, we can never be comfortable. Well, this world is not a place to enjoy. The more we try to enjoy, Adi Antavanta Konteya Nateshu Ramate Buddha, right? The pleasure derived from the senses is a cause of great pain. Sane people don't try to dwell in such pleasures. So, using the complete yoga or the expressed ladder system is like using the Bhakti Yoga platform. Therefore, it's called the express elevator, the path of Bhakti Yoga. So we may start from whatever, everyone on this yoga platforms may start from the animal life. No conception of God, eat, sleep, be merry, enjoy life, make life, happy, work hard, party hard, basically animalistic life. Mohitesham adhiko vishesho dharma vina pashubi narana. Without the yoga principle, animal and human are same. So, surrender to the association of devotees, like Srila Prabhupada. Like we're reading Bhagavad Gita, you're trying to understand, we're trying to follow the teachings of Bhagavad Gita, that this is the sadhana bhakti process. And then eventually, if one continues nicely, one will come to the natural bhakti or naisargiki bhakti or spontaneous bhakti or bhava bhakti, and then ultimately prema bhakti, which is the real goal, prema pumartho mahan. So we don't have to go through all these steps, which are not recommended in this day, especially Gyan Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga. Very, very troublesome, very, very difficult, impractical. Even Arjuna, as we discussed in the beginning, Arjuna will also say the same fact. I can control my mind, but I cannot control. And then Krishna will say the 6 chapters of Bhakti Yoga in great detail. So this is about the Eightfold Yoga system. What is the goal of Eightfold Yoga system? To perfect in self-realization. It's Prabhupada is mentioning attempts in the beginning to enter into the meditation through regulative principles, yam, niyam, and practice of different sitting postures, which are like bodily exercises, are considered fruitive material activities. All such activities lead to achieving perfect mental equilibrium to control the senses. When one is accomplished in the practice of meditation, he ceases all disturbing mental activities. And we will read, for those who think, oh, no, I can take this path, we will read the symptoms also. However, a Krishna conscious person is situated from the beginning on that platform because he's always thinking of Krishna and constantly engaged in the service of Sri Krishna, and therefore ceases the material activities. And we actually see that, devotees come to the path of Krishna consciousness and all the bad habits are naturally gone, right? All the temptations, desires to enjoy the senses, the things which could be very pleasing to us in the past, like wasting time in movies and gossiping and this and that, just the taste will go because of param drishtva nivartate, the higher taste. This is the process of bhakti yoga. It's always superior to this jnana and ashtanga. So let's read text number 4. Wants to read? Lakshay, Prabhu, to read?
Yada hi nendriyatesu na karmasva anusachate sarva sankalpa sannyasi yoga rudras tadochaya. Translation. A person is said to be elevated in yoga when, having renounced all material desires, he neither acts for sense gratification nor
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhu. As you were reading in the last verse also, basically a devotee is already on this platform. So gives up anything which is not conducive to the path of bhakti, right? Renouncing the material desires and the act for selfish sense enjoyment or fruitive activities. Na dhanam, na janam, na sundaram. This is the real bhakti. So when a person is engaged in the pleasing, loving devotional service, he's pleased himself and no longer the fruitive desires remain. So this is what Sri Krishna is recommending. One who has no such realization mechanically try to escape the material desires by mind control, by this practice and that, like Ashtanga Yoga, is very difficult. But on the contrary, the Krishna conscious person Prabhupada is mentioning is already elevated to the top rung of the ladder. We discussed this, the examples also, the express yoga ladder. So again and again, Prabhupada is sharing that how difficult is Ashtanga Yoga and how easy and practical is Bhakti Yoga. In Ashtanga Yoga, go to a forest, sit on a deer skin. Who will want to do that, right? And we will discuss like thinking gold and sand together, alike. Can anyone do that? It's going to come very soon. So let's read text 5 and then The 5th and 6th are very important verses. So let's read this. Anyone wants to read? Udharedat manatmanam natmanam avasadye atmaiva hi atmano bandhur atmaiva ripur atmanaha. Translation by His Divine Grace, Avacharanaravindra Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. One must deliver himself with the help of his mind and not degrade himself. The mind is the friend of the conditioned soul and his enemy as well. Hare Krishna. So, Prabhupada is emphasizing here about the training of the mind. So let's read text number 6 also, and then we will discuss these 2 verses in more details. And this is on the 50 list of important verses as well. So some of you may have already memorized it. Someone wants to read this beautiful verse? Yes, Shital Mataji, please.
Hare Krishna devotees. Bandhur atmanastasya yenat vatmana jitah anatmanustu shatrutva vartetatmaiva shatruvata. Translation. For him who has conquered the mind is the best of friends. But for one who has failed to do so, his mind will remain the greatest enemy. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mataji. These 2 verses are very important. Text number 5 and 6 in chapter 6. So what these 2 verses are talking about is who is our best friend and who is our enemy. For one who has controlled the mind is the best friend. And that same mind can help him or her to reach to the topmost path of self-realization. Right? Uddhara atmana atmanam. That mind can be a tool to attain self-realization or to deliver oneself from the cycle of birth and death. But on the contrary, one whose mind is not controlled, that same mind is the worst enemy, and that will be a tool or an instrument for the degradation. Will put into repeated birth in that cycle. So, who is a Shatru? Who is an enemy? And what's the biggest harm an enemy can do to us? Anyone? What's the biggest harm an enemy can do to us? Any thoughts? It's not that difficult.
He can hurt us
It
mentally,
hurt us.
physically.
Okay, hurt like poke a needle or what? What's the biggest form of hurt that one enemy can do to us?
Kill.
Can kill us. Be good, right? Then can kill. Now that Shatru or that enemy can only kill us in this lifetime. You agree? Right? We may consider, or someone may consider us to be their enemy, or we may consider someone. But that Shatru or that enemy can only hurt us in this lifetime. What about the mind? The mind can hurt us multiple times in this lifetime, and the mind will continue to be with us in the next lifetime also, until we take to the shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in the next life also, it will continue to drag us, and in the next life, and in the next life, continue to hurt us. And what's the hurt? Continue to harm us by us being engaged in the cycle of birth and death, forgetting Krishna, forgetting our real father, real mother. We discussed this example, what is true welfare. So therefore, mind is the worst enemy. Mind is the worst of the enemy. So many examples are there in this connection to talk about the mind. I will share one story from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, chapter 23, the story of Avanti Brahman. So there was a great merchant, very wealthy, but very stingy also, greedy. He would not share his wealth with anyone. He would just reserve his wealth and try to more, greed, envy, lust. And then later he realized by the power of destiny, things turned, and he didn't have money. Friends mingle when pockets jingle. His friends and family also kind of discarded. Anyways, he was not a good donor, or he didn't share his life, his wealth during his lifetime. So these people want to get rid of him. And then he kind of developed a sense of renunciation. And he basically renounced everything. Well, he didn't have anything to renounce either, but he basically gave up whatever family, job, business, whatever he had, and started wandering as a mendicant. Now, people used to make a lot of fun of him. Hey, look at the bogus Baba, look at the Himalayan yogi, he's very good, but he's just a piece of trash. People used to throw stones at him. Some pass urine, some pass stool, some used to say foul words, some would bind him like an animal, and he was just shunned. Very harsh treatment people used to do to him. He would not say a word. And then later, he was reflecting inside, self-reflection. What is really the cause of my disturbance? What is really the cause of my disturbance? And I want to kind of take us to this verse, which is the verse from Avanti Brahman. In his mood of self-reflection, what is the real cause of our disturbance? We'll move to Canto 11, chapter 23 of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Anyone wants to read this beautiful verse? Na dvija uvacha Nayam jano me sukha dukkha hetu na devtatma graha karma kalaha manah param karanam amanati samsara chakram pari vartadet yat. The Brahmana, referring to Avanti Brahmana, said, these people are not the cause of my happiness and distress. Those people who were troubling him. Neither the demigods nor my own body, neither the planets nor my past work nor the time. Rather, it is the mind alone that causes happiness and distress and perpetuates the rotation of material life. So, my dear friends, what's the cause of our repeated birth and death? In the words of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is the mind alone. The mind can make heaven out of hell and hell out of heaven. Now I'll give you a modern example of this, which great knows, like Stephen Covey, you may have heard his name. It is one of his 8 habits of highly successful people, which very much aligns with this principle. So we'll like to discuss that because we want to know how scriptures apply to us in the modern perspectives. Think of a situation which could happen with any one of us, right? A young family, husband, wife, daughter, they were having their breakfast and getting ready for their morning duties. The husband and wife had to go to their work. The daughter had to go to school. So the daughter was young, about 5 years. So there was a nice coffee mug filled with coffees put on the dining table. And accidentally, as the father was eating his breakfast, the daughter accidentally, hit the mug unknowingly, and the mug fell down on the father, right? And bang, the father was so upset about it. So first started to scold the child. Hey, you can't see properly. What are you doing? I have to go. I have an important meeting. You messed up my shirt. You messed up my trousers. And then bang, 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 started to kind of scold the child. And then started to kind of criticize the wife also. You can't see properly. Why you had to overfill the mug? Why can't you give the daughter the right mug, which is spill proof? Why you put that cup at the edge of the table so it is about to fall? Why can't you do things properly? And then it was a verbal argument, right? Does it sound kind of, in this modern day and age? Then the wife also started, everyone's temperament is shot him. The wife said, why are you you can't see things properly? Why you had to sit over there? And then why don't you just go and change your clothes and just get to your office? Why are you making a big issue out of this? And then he goes and changes his clothes. And then in all this mess, the daughter's school bus is missed. Now, the father has to go to the school to drop the daughter. The wife is in bad mood, the daughter is in bad mood, the father is in bad mood. Now he has gone to drop the daughter. And as a result of all this chaos, he reached his office 30 minutes late. And by the way, he was rushing and he got $100 ticket for the speeding also, right? And he got a ticket for speeding. And he reached the office only to realize that his laptop bag is at home. What a start of the day, right? Now, my dear friends, my question to all of you is, who is to blame? Did the coffee mug is to blame, or the policeman who gave the ticket? Should we blame him? Or the daughter who spilled the coffee is to blame? Or the wife who kept the coffee maybe at the edge of the table is to blame? Or the school driver who didn't wait for the bus a few more minutes is to blame? Who is to blame? Right?
He himself, Prabhuji.
He himself. And that's what Avanti Brahman is saying. When we bite our own tongue, who is to blame? Right? When we all experience that. So we are our own cause of either degradation or advancement. Right? The mind is the best of the friends for those who have controlled it. And it will be an instrument. Like, for example, a knife. A knife can be used to cause great good to the world. We can cut vegetables, offer to the Supreme Lord, cook, and then have a nice Krishna conscious feast. The same knife can be used by an expert trained doctor, a surgeon, to cut the bad cells or bad tissues out of the body, or to stitch and surgery. Certainly they use knife, right? That's also a very good cause. But the same knife in the hands of an untrained person can be a greatest havoc and can be used to kill someone. The knife is not same. The knife is the same, but it depends on the instrument, who is using that instrument, right? So the mind is the same, but if an untrained person is using it, who has not trained the mind properly, the same mind will be a cause of havoc. So this is like Stephen Covey says that it's like the 10-90 rule, or the 90-10 rule. So the 10% of the things which come upon us. It was a situation, it came upon that father, the spilled coffee. If his mind would have been in control, right? Then he could have said, okay, daughter, be careful next time. I have a meeting, but it's okay. You did it accidentally. It was not your intention to spoil my clothes. Okay, I'll just give me 5 minutes. I'll quickly go and change, right? And then back to normal routine, isn't it? And probably he would have, not spoiled the mood of the daughter, the wife, his own self, and not got a ticket. So everything is kind of linked. So I like this story. This is called, we cannot sometimes control the externals, but we can control the internals, how we react or respond to those situations, how control our mind and in senses and intelligence. And that will happen only through the process of Krishna consciousness. What's the solution to overcome all these problems? What's the solution to overcome these challenges? That's also here from the words of Avanti Brahman in Canto 11, Chapter 23. And again, I am reminding, if you would like to read, you can raise your hand. There's a button on your thing to raise hand. Otherwise, I won't be able to see who wants to read. So, and keep your hand raised until your turn comes, or until you change your mind. So this is again the same chapter. Anyone wants to read this beautiful verse? Yes, Vipul Prabhu, please.
Hare Krishna devotees. Etam sha asthayo paramatma nishatam adhyaya shitam purvatame maha shivi aham tarishami duranta param tamo mukunda grihi nishe bhaibho. I shall cross over the insurmountable ocean of nescience by being firmly fixed in the service of the lotus feet of the Krishna. This was approved by the previous acharyas, who were fixed in firm devotion to the Lord, Paramatma, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Back to Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. So this was the firm conclusion of Avanti Brahman. After going through a lot, he went through a lot. We discussed that. And it is not just his conclusion. He is mentioning that this is the conclusion of all the previous acharyas. How we can use our mind, which is an instrument, again, by engaging in the service of the Supreme Lord. I can cross over this deep dark well. I can cross over this Bhavasagar, insurmountable ocean. I can cross over this nescience of darkness and ignorance. How? By engaging in the lotus feet. Savai mana Krishna padara indayo. Amrish Maharaj. Man mana bhava mad bhakto. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita twice this line. Engage your mind in the service of my lotus feet. Become my devotee. And all this is approved by all the acharyas. This is the process to control the mind. This is the real process to be mindful. Not by attending some mindfulness seminar, not by attending with all respects to those people who are doing all these things. But one person was doing this stress management seminar, right? Stress management seminar, and no bhakti, no devotion. And this, I think Amogila Prabhu or some other devotee was sharing this, that he, in his college days, went to the stress management seminar, which was run by a professional so-called stress management guru, motivational speaker, life coach. These words are very fancy these days. But recently in New York, 2 life coaches committed suicide. This is a recent story. I'm not joking. Why? Sarve gunai tatra samasate sura hariv abhaktasya kuto mahat guna. These are the words of Bhagavatam. Without devotion to Hari, no good qualities will come. Artificially on the surface, we can say big fancy things and mindfulness and self-awareness. But what is real self-awareness? To understand I am the child of God. To understand that this Bhagavad Gita is basically the Stephen Covey message I had to share because people like to hear that more. But actually, this is what Avanti Brahman said. The same thing, the words from Srimad Bhagavatam, that others are not a cause of my disturbance. My own mind and my own self is a cause of my disturbance or happiness or distress. So what I was mentioning, stress management seminar. So this person was giving, fancy words, stress management, nice slides and this and that. And then later he went out and was smoking a cigarette. And this Prabhu, who is now a ISKCON Brahmachari, asked, "Hey sir, I was impressed by your talk. You were so powerful, so extraordinary, brilliant speech you gave. And why are you smoking cigarette?" I said, he said that this college, I've given like 10 of these seminars, but this college is not giving my money. Uska stress ho gaya. They have not paid me for the seminars I have been conducting for last 3 months. And so much amount, thousands of rupees and dollars are out due and past due. They're not giving me money. I'm like fed up. So much stress is happening because of their, not paying my bills. Okay. And then he realized that this is a bogus guru who is not practicing what he is preaching. He's not a teacher, he's a cheater. Why? Hari abhaktasya kuto mahadguna. Lack of bhakti will not lead to any good qualities. Artificially, one can hear these, so-called seminars, so-called, but one's internal, real self-awareness is to understand what is my true identity, right? That's what the Bhagavad Gita starts with. Who am I? One of the foremost principles. And when we understand that, then only we can be self-aware, right? So this is being true mindful. And then one will be careful. And we will see in the next verses also what are the qualities of one who is truly mindful as well. So we discussed a lot about the mind, and we discussed that how we should not blame others for our situation. We discussed the example of the fire. We discussed the example of knife. We discussed basically the one that devotee, his own Bhakti Rasamrit Maharaj was giving, that mind is like a terrorist, right? Terrorists, what they do, they kind of capture, they hostage and collect ransom or kidnap. So what mind also does the same thing, right? Often ask for ransom, or give me the new car, or give me the new home, or give me the new candy, or give me the new chocolate. Then only I'll be happy, right? Then only I will leave you. But it never ends. Therefore, it's an eternal enemy, until we take the true shelter of the Supreme Lord and his devotees. This is the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita, and it's the conclusion of Bhagavatam. So let's see, what are the qualities of those who have controlled the mind? So we discussed here the word Atma is basically used for the mind. So best friend or worst enemy. And how can we control it? By engaging in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He, the word he is important, certainly. Antavant Atmev he, Atmano, certainly. So don't doubt the words of the Supreme Lord. Don't think that this is not going to change. So the motivational speakers will come and go. Their books will come and go. Their lectures will come and go. But the words of Supreme Lord will not come and go. Certainly they will remain the same. For the man or the woman who has mind is the cause of bondage and the mind is cause of liberation. Again, a tool. The mind absorbed in sense objects is the cause of bondage. The mind detached from the senses is the cause of liberation. Again, Prabhupada is quoting. Therefore, the mind which is engaged in the bhakti, Krishna consciousness, is the supreme cause of liberation, or the cause of supreme liberation, that is back home, back to Godhead. And we read this one also about how friend and enemy. And now it's a choice whether we want to make our mind a best friend who will guide us. If we nurture the mind with the right association, if we stop, giving into all the demands of the mind, how we control a tiger? The mind is very wild, like a tiger, wild animal. First they starve the tiger, and then they tame it, and then they ask tiger, okay, you jump in the circus. Then the tiger jumps, and then they feed it, right? That's a way. I will later share kind of a small thing I developed on the controlling mind, so you can hear that later in more detail. And of course, we are all trying to. So let's read some qualities of someone who has controlled the mind. Yes, text number 7. Yes, then Prabhu, please.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Dandavat pranam, all the devotees. Jitatmana prasantasya paramatma samohita shitoshna sukha dukhesha tatha manapam namanaya. Translation by His Divine Grace Sri Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. For one who has conquered the mind, the super soul is already reached, for he has attained tranquility. To such a man, happiness and distress, heat and cold, honor and dishonor are all the same. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, back to you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhu. And my dear friends, this is the acronym for chapter 6. It's easy. EASY. The E is for the mind. Is the enemy or friend? So E is for the enemy or friend. It starts with there, referring to the mind. And we have a choice. We can make our mind the best friend or the worst of the enemy. So let's read text 8 also, and then we will discuss these two together. Yes, Vaswati Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Text 8. Jnana Vijnana Triptatma Kutastho Vijitendriyaha Yukta iti Uchate Yogi Samalostrashma Kanchanaha. A person is said to be established in self-realization and is called a yogi or mystic when he is fully satisfied by virtue of acquired knowledge and realization. Such a person is situated in transcendence and is self-controlled. He sees everything, whether it be pebbles, stones, or gold, as the same. Back to you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mataji, for reading this nice verse. So these two verses, and actually there are tens of verses in Bhagavad Gita. Practically in every chapter, Krishna is talking about the equilibrium, the tranquility. Matra sparshastu konteya shitoshana sukha dukkada agama apaino nityastam stitikshva svabharata. One should tolerate the heat and the cold, the honor and the dishonor, the wealth and the poverty, the health and the disease. It will come. No matter who we are, today we could be wealthy, like the Avanti Brahman. Next day, pauper. Today one could be healthy. We don't know what tomorrow may bring. Today one could have a nice family. We don't know what tomorrow may bring. So this is the nature of the material world. It is dukhalyam, ashashvatam. It is not eternal. It is temporary. So, but great. So, one must control the mind through the Ashtanga Yoga process or through the Bhakti Yoga process. And we have discussed that Bhakti Yoga is easy and practical in this day and age. Ashtanga Yoga is no joke. We have discussed that again and again. So, the point is to be equipoised. And practically, Krishna mentions that in every chapter. If we read through, we will find this point to be equipoised, to be sama, to be nirdvanda. Dvanda means duality. And to be freed from these dualities of ups and downs, the crests and the troughs in the life. And it will only happen when we put a filter of Bhakti Yoga. It will help us to level those ups and downs. It's not that crests and troughs, ups and downs don't come in the lives of devotees. It's not that the devotees don't lose their dear ones. It's not that the devotees may not be unemployed. They may also lose their job. They may also lose their dear one. They may also go through health reversals, emotional reversals, financial reversals. But since they have the power, the blessings of the Supreme Lord through the process of Bhakti Yoga, they are equipped to deal with that in a much more stronger way, rather than going into depression and suicides and taking pills and whatnot people are doing when they go through ups and downs. But Bhakti Yoga, a controlled mind, by engaging in the lotus feet of Krishna, helps us to be equipoised in these ups and downs. So this is a very nice verse here, these two verses that after Krishna talks about the friend and the enemy, that one must try to control the mind. And that is basically the samadhi. To not be disturbed by the outside. Because outside we cannot control. We can only control. So 10% is what comes to us. 90% is how we respond to it. Right? We discussed the story of this person, getting the coffee being spilled over him. Right? 90% was how he reacted to it. 10% was that incident which happened unknowingly. Similarly, the weather could be sometimes harsh. Sometimes the situations could be hard. But how we respond makes all the difference. Our attitude determines our altitude. And the next verse, text number 8, basically says how that person sees things. Whether it is pebbles, stones, or gold, one sees the same way. Kanchana, gold, tapta kanchana gaurang. And sama lostra, ashma kanchana. Pebbles, dirt, and stone. Pebbles, dirt, and gold. One sees alike. Anyone who sees all these three things alike? And we're looking for some pebbles, which you see in the form of gold. You can donate for the service of the Supreme Lord, if anyone is seeing alike. The jokes apart, but Gauranga Prabhu mentioned this joke. If someone is hitting a stone, we will hit bigger stones at them. But if someone is hitting with gold, we'll say, no, I'm very sinful. Prabhu, please hit me more with these gold stones. Oh, I'm very sinful. Now you realize how much punishment I deserve. Hit me more with this gold. Hit me with bricks of gold. I'm so sinful. So the point is, it's not easy. And therefore, we don't have to even, kind of go through this Ashtanga yoga process. Controlling this mind is very difficult. But let's talk about a story again, since we all like stories. Because bhakti is the art of seeing things. Yoga means to spiritualize, to have spiritual eyes, right? That's the path of bhakti. As we discussed recently in chapter 5, text 18, right? Pandita Samadarshinaha. He's a person with true knowledge sees a Brahmana, sees a cow, sees a elephant, or a dog eater, an animal in the same vision because they're children of God. So basically, the bhakti process means to see things or develop the spiritual eyes, to develop that lens. If I have yellow lens, I will see everything yellow. If I have blue lens, I'll see everything blue, right? So basically, through the lenses of the mind, if the mind is controlled, the mind is equipoised, one will see things alike. Alike means in connection with the Supreme Lord, correct? Because what is really gold? Gold is also a bunch of earthly matter, like stones. Stone is also a bunch of earthly particles. But since the material world considers that as a lot of value, so everyone is running after gold. I think Ramya Prabhu wants to say something. So please, Prabhu, please add or to share something. Prabhu, you're on mute. Can you please unmute? I think it's still on mute. No, Prabhu, not yet. Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
I hope I don't distract anyone here, but there's a commentary on the Bhagavad Gita given by one of our great acharyas, Baladev Vijayabhushan. And I was reading yesterday, and he says something quite interesting about the mind in chapter 6. He says, the mind, freed of its unsteadiness, becomes easy to control. Steadiness is accomplished by counteracting the mind's spiritual indifference with the practice of tasting the bliss of the Atma, and by counteracting the mind's restless nature by avoiding the taste for material sense objects. So I know you've been talking about this for the most part, but one thing I thought was very interesting is called the mind's spiritual indifference. So this is stemming from the fact that the soul has turned away from Krishna, is indifferent to Krishna. So the mind then becomes flavored with this indifference. And that indifference becomes the biggest challenge in moving us forward in Krishna consciousness. The mind is, once it's indifferent, it becomes naturally absorbed in the objects of sense gratification. So what is the cure for all this? Well, the acharyas tell us that the cure for this is the careful and regulated practice of Vaidhi Bhakti, executing the processes of sadhana bhakti very carefully and very attentively. Then gradually the mind is cleansed, it's purified, and when it comes to a purified state, it naturally becomes attracted to Krishna, because Krishna is all attractive. So the activities we do in our sadhana and bhakti yoga, these are the processes. And Krishna says, he warns Arjuna, he says, this is not easy work. This requires constant effort and determination to control the mind. And I know this will be covered in some later verses, but sometimes help us to get a little preview. That the control of the mind is a big challenge for those practicing bhakti yoga. And it's difficult work. To sit there, right now, what is it? The goal of yoga, the controlling the mind, is to enter into what? Samadhi, where the mind is undeviatingly fixed on Krishna in deep meditation. So to reach that stage, we have to practice, and that practice is the practices of Vaidhi Bhakti or Sadhana Bhakti. And so therefore, we have to give great care and attention to these practices, or the mind will not submit. The mind will not be controlled. It will continue to give us difficulty because it's been conditioned for millions of births to be attracted to the objects of the senses. It takes that flavor, that chapala sukha, that temporary, transitory flavor of happiness in the spiritual, in the material world, material sense objects, to be the real happiness that it's seeking. And it has no comprehension of the spiritual bliss, but that will come by very carefully executing our sadhana bhakti. And that especially implies very carefully hearing from the Shastra, hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam, hearing the Bhagavad Gita, hearing the pastimes of Krishna, coming properly in disciplic succession. Then that potency is full to change the mind, to convert the mind. And this is simply the process by which we can make some success. So I thought I could add that. I hope I didn't say anything that was taking away your...
No, we are very grateful for your wonderful comments and references from the Shastra. So thank you so much. We're very grateful. So we're talking about the spiritual vision. Prabhupada quotes this verse a lot of times in one of the most quoted verses by Srila Prabhupada from Chanakya's shlokas. Matrivat. Yeah, Anita Mataji, you want to read this? Raise your hand, please.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, everyone. Matravat paradaresu para dravya yesu lochtravat atmavat sarva bhutesu ya pasyati sa pandita. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. One should consider Paradara, that means another's wife, except for one's own wife, as Matra, Matrivat, like a mother. In ISKCON, therefore, we address other women as Mataji. It's very, very, it's a culture of respect. Although some people may say, hey, I don't look like your mother. Why are you calling me your mother? They may feel a little offended and whatnot. But it's not to offend, but rather to give the topmost respect. Para dravyashu lostravat. Dravya, others things, others possessions. It could be, I was talking in the kids class also this point. Because conditioned soul has greed and envy. And there is always someone who will have better dravya than us. If we have a $100 watch, someone will have $1,000 watch, which we may be aspiring for. The person with a $1,000 watch maybe look for a $5,000 watch, and the person with a 5,000 will look for 10,000. So there is no end point. Someone could have $1 billion, and then there will be someone with an extra $2 billion. The point is, one should consider others' possessions, their things, their home, car, whatever, like a lump of dirt, not with a disrespect attitude. The point is that if we see a lump of dirt on the road, we will not develop attachment. Hey, I should pick it and use it, get it to my home. We should, because all these things are just by the will of providence. Sometimes people think, well, why I should chant Hare Krishna, better I can work 2 hours more, I will get more money. Or why should some kids may think like, why I should read Bhagavad Gita, better I can study more and then I will get better grades. I had a total other experience in my college when I was not chanting Hare Krishna, and I was not doing all, or trying to chant or trying to do some bhakti. My grades were just average. My grades were just average, like 7.5 out of 10. They were not poor, they were not good, they were average kind of. But then when by the mercy of the Supreme Lord and Prabhupada and devotees, when I started to go to the programs, take their association, start chanting, they inspired me to chant Hare Krishna, and also they told me that now you should get best grades. Because now the people will look up to you. People will say, hey, it goes to ISKCON and is getting just average. You don't want to be just average. And trust me, I'm not joking. You can check my report cards if you want to. And from that year onwards, all my grades were above 9.5, like all straight A's, and the average CGPA was above 9, right? The cumulative grade point average. And it's all because of Krishna consciousness. I can certainly say that. So it's not that bhakti takes our time, rather bhakti adds a lot of meaning to our life. Same with anything material also. Although that's not our goal to do bhakti to get better grades, but it's kind of a residual effect. Because the time we waste on other so many things, it's not that people who are not chanting Hare Krishna are 24/7 doing productive work. No, they're wasting much more time in nonsense things, which degrade not only they take our time, but they also take our valuable, mental energy and consciousness and pollute us. Atmavat sarva bhuteshu. So brilliant message. One should treat others like one's own self. Would we like to be treated with bad words, killed? One should not kill others. One should not cause harm. One should be respectful. How we would like to treat others. How we would want others to treat us. We should treat others the same way. Treat others the way you want to be treated is again coming from the Shastras. This is real Pandita. And just I want to bring back to the story of Sanatan Goswami. He had the Paras money, the one that could turn iron to gold. And one person got to know, was very greedy. I think, okay, I heard the great Goswami has Paras money. What he will do? He said, Goswami, I have heard that you have this precious thing. Can you give it to me? Sure, why not? Go to that trash can, pick it from there. Lo and behold, it was there, right? he found the Paras money and he was thinking, well, we don't keep our important things in our trash can. Anyone keeps your like wallet or something important to you, your important documents in the trash can? Anyone stores that? No, right? We stole which is not value for us, some garbage basically, right? So it's called garbage can. So which is not of value to us. So then this person thought that this Goswami gave me something which everyone considers of so much value, just like a stone, like a lump of dirt, like garbage. That means he must be having something very, 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 very much more precious than that. Let me ask for that thing. He came back. He said, oh, great Goswami, do you have anything more precious than this? You must be having something more precious than only you kept this thing in a trash bin. He says, yes, I have. But before I give you that, you have to throw this Paras money in the Yamuna River. Paras money and just throw in the Yamuna River? That's a test a guru takes before giving the real thing. And then he trusted. And then later he gave what? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Nama Chintamani Krishna Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha Purna Shuddha Nitya Mukta Bhinnattvas Nama Nama. This is the real thing, but unfortunately, fools like myself don't understand it. I think gold is real wealth. I think car is real wealth. I think material possession is real wealth. But all those possessions will not save me from the cycle of birth and death. So what is the use of those so-called possessions, which will just rather, it will become when a person is drowning and a person has a golden, what do you call that? Helmet? Oh, no, crown. Yeah, golden crown. That person will just drown faster in the water. Right? So, therefore, Kunti Maharani also says that Janma Aishwarya, these Aishwarya are an obstacle on the path of Bhakti. So, the real thing is the holy name, as Prabhuji mentioned, Krishna consciousness, sadhana bhakti, association of devotees. This is our real wealth. This is our real sum and substance in life. This is the real process to control the mind and senses. This is the real thing to overcome all the distresses. And this verse, which is here, actually, it is one of the sannyas mantras. In ISKCON, Dr. Samit Maharaj was mentioning that this is the mantra that they kind of chant when they are taking sannyas. And now I shall cross over. You can also repeat together, maybe on the mute mode. Now I shall cross the insurmountable ocean of the nations by being firmly fixed in the service of the lotus feet of Krishna. This was approved by the previous acharyas who were fixed in the firm devotion to the Lord, Paramatma, the Supreme Personality of God. This is the real process to control mind and senses, to engage in the process of Bhakti Yoga or the loving feet of the Supreme Lord. So I will pause here. We can take one or two quick reflections or questions if anyone has. But thank you so much for taking out your valuable time and tolerating me. You have to learn to tolerate, right? So all of you are doing good job in that. So anyone has anything to share, add before we pause for today, or ask or tell? Okay, please share at least one or two reflections, something struck you, something inspired you from the Bhagavad Gita, so I can know you were awake and at least heard something.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandat Pranam. So, as you said, controlling the mind, and tolerating, you tolerate us, Prabhuji. And, so we have to be satisfied with what we have. And, so the advanced person sees the same thing. So you gave us the example of Tadvidhi Pranipatena Pariprashna, surrendering to the Lord. But the other one is Brahmana Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Ganiga Vyastane Sunichaiva Swapakecha Pandita Samdarshana. So a person who is in Krishna consciousness, sadhu, he sees everything equally. That's what I understood. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Prabhu, for your nice reflection. Anyone else before we pause for today? One last comment.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Thank you very much for the class, wonderful class. I like that story you gave that regarding the coffee. Whatever goes wrong around us, we are the responsible. Like we are the cause for that. Our mind is the cause for that. Like it's up to us how we see things around us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That's really powerful. And that's the biggest formula nowadays. They talk about stress management and this and that. See, 90% of things is we can control. Or let's put it this way, we can choose how to respond to it, right? And that will make the difference. So thank you for your nice reflection, Prabhu. So we will pause here. It's time. So thank you for your valuable time and association. Shri Bhagavad Gita Upanishad ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Samaveta Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindubhyaiva cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.